Welcome to the Higher Ed Demand Gen podcast, helping higher education marketing leaders share knowledge about learning, strategies, and tactics that are relevant today. See what you can learn today by listening to one of our episodes.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Higher Ed Demand Gen podcast, hosted by Concept 3D. So on this podcast, we like to cover topics around creating and capturing demand, specifically in higher education. Before we jump into our guest here, I got to tell you a little bit about Concept 3D. So Concept 3D helps bring your campus to life virtually. We have served over 600 happy customers in higher education with our best-in-class interactive maps, virtual tours, and localist events. Improve your campus communications, student engagement, and recruitment with our powerful location-based virtual solutions. So my name is Shiro, and I will be your host today. And today I'm super excited to have Mike Gombita join us. Mike is the Assistant Director of Alumni Engagement at Misericordia University. Thanks for joining us today, Mike.
I am so excited to be on your podcast today, and it's such a pleasure to be on here today.
Likewise. So, before I jump in, I love to ask this question now, which is, what do you love about higher ed?
Ooh, what a challenging question considering, what we've been through the last couple of years.
Right?
Yeah, no, for sure. The one thing I like about higher ed, and I think this goes along with kind of part of my journey, is the community. I mean, you're dealing with not one, not five, not 10. You're dealing with a lot of individuals on your day-to-day work, and you really get to hear a lot of their stories and a lot of their background that, quite frankly, it's almost the why are you working here type of deal, but more specifically, why higher ed? And you get a lot of interesting stories coming out of that.
I love it. Yeah, and I love the opportunity personally to speak to you, Mike, and others on our guests. And the community is such an important aspect of my job and my day-to-day as well. Love that.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I know in our previous conversation, we were able to talk a little bit more about audiences and digital engagement and how you're passionate about that. I'd love for you to speak about, how one can understand ways to digitally engage with their audience.
Yeah. So with many institutions itself, an assistant director of alumni engagement traditionally really focuses on the one-to-one engagement. Moving into my position, I was actually a graduate assistant at first, really focusing on digital marketing for our alumni and our constituents. It fortunately turned into a full-time position, which I've been very grateful for. And within that job itself, I'm more working with the masses now. I'm more working with our alumni constituents itself. And within that, part of my background being a bachelor's in communications is being a content creator by day. What usually I'm responsible for is all of our digital components, whether that is our email marketing, our social media marketing, and our website. And the thing that I always love about my job specifically is it's never the same every day from 9 to 5. I'm really having the fortunate opportunity to really have something different every day. Whether that's good or not is really a difference between what exactly the job is at hand. So there may be days where I'm out capturing content. I may be producing videos. I may be taking photos at an event. And then there's times where I'm just sitting down and I'm laying out and strategizing our upcoming content calendar. It's been a whirlwind of learning and just really having an opportunity to really get the full scheme of marketing. But I think what's even better is it's within our alumni relations office. And I think even a better part of me currently is that being a 2-time alum at my alma mater, Misericordia, it's a weird passion project because I think you yourself as the alum, you want to be just as engaged and as informed as you hope your alumni constituents. So I kind of have that in the back of my head every day as with this current position. And, I think that really transpires with moving forward and really engaging to the niche that is our Misericordia University Alumni Association.
That's amazing. And what are some of the more tactical, strategic elements you put into place in your time?
Mm-hmm. So when I came on, I think it was the January of 2018. A lot of purpose, a lot of why we do this. One example that I think is silly, but I think it's fun to mention at times, We do have an opportunity for our soon-to-be graduates. It has been called 50 Nights to Commencement. Currently, it's called Cheers to Alumni Forever. That's kind of a shout out to our student philanthropy team, Students Today, Alumni Forever. You're reaching that other side of that 50%. And before that, what we did was we offered them a registration. The registration would be online. We would then have them come to the event, and then they would write down the same information that they promoted within the online registration. And then I think even the third time you get asked for the registration. And the question came up, it was like, why are we asking them to register 3 times when we could just ask them to register once? And we were able to streamline that. Instead of having a backlog of people outside of the event venue, we were able to just give them their name tag and then go inside and enjoy a glass of champagne and hors d'oeuvres, compliments of the Alumni Association. So that was one fun thing that we kind of implemented, very simple. But I think the most, shall I say, strategic or the most intricate portion of it is really housing a robust giving day and a lot of our alumni events that are coming up. So we've been responsible for 2 successful Giving Day challenges for the past 2 years. We've usually called it Arch Madness. It happens in March if somebody couldn't put 2 and 2 together. But our iconic arch way that you enter as you come into Misericordia, we're playing it off of that. So within that, we developed a lot of video communication and a lot of storytelling, which I think we'll speak about later, really served for the pandemic as a way to really engage with our alumni. Understandably, you have your emails, your letters, your photos, but I think really the video spoke to a lot of our alumni constituents in the sense of how can I help, especially during the trying times of the pandemic.
Right. And I think, right now you started the model virtually completely, right? Or were you doing hybrid? And what have you learned and what have you put in place today, let's say in the coming Arch Madness?
Yeah, so a lot of things that we learned, I don't want to say I exhausted myself this past Giving Day, but the past Giving Day, we were able to highlight mostly all of our student athletes, so all of our athletic teams that are at Misericordia. Right now, I believe we're at 26 sports teams that are existing there, so we were able to get over 20. And then on top of that, too, we were able to promote some of the coaches to involve in Giving Day itself. More of a community effort, which is oddly enough interesting that I mentioned that community was one of the favorite things I liked about higher ed. Within the community itself, we were able to highlight these amazing videos that our alumni were able to see. Our student athletes were able to speak upon their behalf of what it means to be a student athlete at Misericordia. And especially too, just being able to have a boatload of content that you can actually use to market your individuals to your constituents in the hopes of asking for a financial support, or even so, just awareness. I think that was the cool thing that a lot of our coaches saw, was the amount of reach that we were getting within our videos, reaching out to our alumni and friends. And within that, I think it was a really cool opportunity for both. I think what we're looking at next year, we're still looking at some fantastic videos, but I think we're looking at more ways in which we can get real-time engagement, but also that engagement as well.
Yeah, I love this because I was going to ask, what's been the, with all the good work you've been putting in, what's been the outcome for the institution, right? What's been the outcome for the university? And I'm curious, like you said, more reach. Have you seen improved numbers and engagement with alumni? And, how are you measuring your results?
Yeah, so it has been amazing how engaged our alumni have been. And not to toot on my own horn, but ever since actually understanding and analyzing those analytics, we've been able to compare some of our competitors' alumni offices. And it's not even a question, the amount of engagements we get compared to other institutions' alumni department. I think we are simply very fortunate to have the resources, and I just don't mean by people, just the resources in order to execute a lot of these video productions, and be able to simply just put an importance on digital communication within your alumni. So we've definitely seen a lot of, quote, being on the pedestal of being one of the largest, not the largest institution, but the institution with the leading amount of engagements in a fiscal year itself. I think the second one came in, I think, either under 1,000 or right above the 1,000 engagement points. So to speak on an engagement, it's likes, comments, and shares for us. But even the reach, I mean, yeah, right. You have to be specific because
how do you measure that? I was wondering. It's like, okay.
Yeah, you have to be specific because a lot of people, when it comes to engagement, it could mean shares. It could just mean likes. We try to keep it universal enough so that way everybody can understand it. But happy to report from our last fiscal year, we actually had over 1 million impressions within our 3 social media platforms that we really focus on, which are Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
And were you seeing anything like that in 2016 or 2017?
I wasn't because I think just around that time, I think we were really everywhere around the world was saying like, yeah, like you should start posting more on Facebook or you should start coming up with a social media plan. And everyone's sitting there being like, yeah, I'm not sure about that. But on top of that, too, that was still at the time when there wasn't a focus on digital engagement via alumni constituents, specifically for Misericordia.
Right. Yeah, you're right. And I feel like, yeah, alumni maybe might be a year or two behind with what central teams are doing. So I could totally understand that. And have you seen any like feedback loop from how the good work you're doing and how it might feed into like central marketing teams, or around incoming prospective students as well? Like I assume like there's a stronger connection with alumni to the very top of the funnel that people often overlook or mislook.
I think the very general basis of our alumni staying informed, I think that gives them that stepping stone to be able to make that secondary action. Because a lot of times when you think about alumni relations, you think about a person who has come to campus. And I'm going to be very, accentuated with this, but you have an alum who hasn't been to campus in 50 years. And you have that alum come to campus and being like, oh my gosh, look how large this institution has gotten, not only acreage-wise, but just enrollment, with technology, everything. And by giving that opportunity to have them stay informed via our digital communication, they now going onto campus, they already know what's happening. So then you have that establishment figured out in their head. And that secondary thing is, okay, so what can I do to improve the institution? Or what can I do with my time, talent, and treasure to be able to enhance even more what Misericordia can do?
That's amazing. That's really well put too.
Thanks.
And I feel like, this kind of comes into my second topic I wanted to bring about, which is, how do you define the value of storytelling, and how are you using video and these newer channels that are popping up effectively to help tell that story?
Yeah. So great question. I think right now we are at a very unique time in the digital space itself. I remember back in 2019 that there were people going around, you had your influencers, you had the people who were marketing companies. They're like, if you don't invest in video, if you don't invest in trying to start creating video, you're going to be lost. And I mean, not that I want to quote Michael Jordan, but I took that personally. If anybody's watched Michael Jordan with the Last Dance documentary. But within that, it was important to have that option and to have that resource to be able to deliver that quality content to our alumni. And I think everybody was well aware of it. If not, they saw more of it when the pandemic hit, because that was the only way that you could have communicated with our constituents, is through video. To actually have somebody physically there speaking in front of you on a screen, obviously, it was video. And to me, when we were sent home back in March of 2020, I wasn't concerned. I mean, I was concerned for the health and safety of everyone, but as far as how we were able to communicate, I was not nervous at all. And I had a wonderful team that backed me up behind that, and were able to be active and ambitious in actually supporting those initiatives. We were able to run our very first ever virtual homecoming. It may be the last virtual homecoming because of how much it was. But we had that opportunity to really promote what was still happening on campus, even though individuals weren't able to visit campus because we weren't allowing visitors at that time of that fall of 2020. Yeah. So, we were able to cover new building progress of our new Frank M. and Dorothea Henry Science Center. We were able to cover some of our athletic teams and what that was producing. Around that time, we were just getting started with the esports team that came to campus. So we were able to highlight that. We were able to celebrate some of our, quote, reunion achievements. So people making it to the NCAA finals, people making it to the MAC championship. And it was a lot of collaboration with our athletics team, our dean of the arts and sciences, our project shepherd of the science building. We're super into actually giving a, quote, virtual tour with those things. And a lot of those events kind of produced on and kind of followed with. One in particular was our scholarship recognition event. So similar to institutions, it's an event where we had the opportunity to recognize and acknowledge some of our benefactors and our supporters who have supported certain scholarships, whether that is within their name, they supported it just simply. And the cool thing about that event, which I highly recommend, is actually getting the student recipients involved in the event itself. So it's an opportunity for the benefactor or the supporter to actually meet the scholarship recipient in that opportunity of being together. So every year we do honor a certain scholarship just for their kindness and their support and their philanthropic initiatives. We were able to get a film, a recording, shall I say, of a student speaker, one of the student speakers who was a part of the Women with Children program. The Women with Children program is, I believe, one of 8 across the United States. So we're very proud in sponsoring that itself. Catherine Polital, who's the director, she would probably bonk me on the head if I got that number wrong. So I will admit to that if that is the case. But our Women with Children are absolutely fantastic. And the story that Stacy, was her name, Stacy McCarter, shared with our benefactors and students really inspired our honored scholar. And it was a beautiful event. You had tears. Yeah, it was the first time being back in a while, so you had tears of everybody running down. But what we did is we actually recorded that presentation, and then we actually transitioned it into a virtual event, because what we recognized during the pandemic, when we couldn't meet face to face, was we hosted a virtual scholarship benefactor recognition event. And within that, there was a lot of benefactors that said, "I'm from Florida. I'm from California. I'm out of state. Right. It's an inconvenience for me to drive that far for 2 hours and then come back." So they really preferred that virtual recognition opportunity. So what happened, which was this past, go ahead.
I was going to say, is that something you're going to continue on, given that like some of your benefactors are out of state and, out of just convenience and efficiency, like keeping it going?
Yeah, I think we're obviously going through the planning stages. I'm going to say yes in the grand scheme of things from the top down, but if we're getting into a little bit of the logistics, it may not look the same every year. So there may be an opportunity for us where when we first started during the pandemic, we had about 100 benefactors on the Zoom call. I'm using easy and small numbers. There were much more people on that call than there was. But moving forward, we may get smaller numbers like 5 or 10. And I think that even brings a better opportunity for our benefactors, because then they have more time with the student recipient and have more time actually hearing about the student experience of that scholarship recipient. So it obviously logistically it could change from time to time, but we're really starting to see the hybridity, which I love using that word, the hybridity of our events and some of the things that we've been doing to apply to those events itself.
Got it. That's amazing. And I was wondering, I think we talked about this specifically before, what value has this provided for the benefactors? Has it created a closer tie with the school and with the students? And does this lock in a longer relationship and a partnership from the university's perspective?
Mm-hmm. I feel like I don't even need to answer it because you kind of answered my question, but I will.
Yeah.
But you're 100% right. It's an opportunity for somebody who is supporting Misericordia to have an opportunity to really get the real-time engagement of what the student is going through. I've heard so many stories of, there's this one clip in particular that I remember because they recorded their sessions. A benefactor actually sent a wristlet, like kind of like a wrist jewelry. I don't wear those. I wear a watch all the time, so I'm not 100% sure what it's called, but a little charm for the wrist. And I remember they were on the Zoom call, and the student was like, "I remember you sent me a jewelry." What is that again? I'm like trying to figure what that is.
I'm the wrong person to ask too. Like, I have nothing on my wrist.
A bracelet. That's what it's called. A bracelet.
Yeah. Okay.
A bracelet with a charm, and okay. So rewinding, we figured it out. It's a bracelet. A bracelet with a charm. The student goes, "You sent me a letter, and what it contained was a bracelet with a charm." And out of frame, she brings up her wrist, and she was actually wearing that bracelet with that charm on it. And you could not believe the reaction from the benefactor that this student is actually grateful and really thankful for the opportunity to be able to have quality higher education for Misericordia. But in most cases, receiving a scholarship, if you did not receive that scholarship, 100% of the time, the students wouldn't be able to do it because of the financial support that they need in order for them to be able to have a higher education experience.
I love that. That is amazing. And we actually had a guest on a few episodes back with Camilla Heslop.
Okay.
And she was a recipient, from a benefactor, and that's what she was I believe she was a first gen student as well. And she ended up going to grad school and, completing very, very great education. And she is so grateful for that opportunity she's had. And she now works in alumni relations today.
That's funny.
Similar as you. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, I too am a first generation college student. My parents did not go to college. Fun fact.
Wow.
I think that's what allows me to understand the idea of philanthropy and just within the support of the institution, because people like myself would have never had that opportunity if it wasn't for that support of that scholarship and financial aid. I try to share that with our students, our student philanthropy team, as me being the advisor. It's 9 out of 10 students receive some type of financial aid or scholarship. And that percentage is drilled in their head because there's a 10% chance that one student does not have financial aid or support. But 90% of the student population, now it may change. I don't know. I may be saying this and it may change later on based on our support, but having that idea and having that awareness of that financial support, I think really brings it home for a lot of our students.
Love it. Thank you so much. And I was wondering where some of our listeners could connect with you afterwards as well.
Yeah. So I try to be as active on LinkedIn as possible. So you could find me, I think the linkedin.com, if you find it where it's like just Mike Gombita, it's all one word. If you are interested in finding a lot of our content, Misericordia University Alumni, you'll be able to find that. Misericordia Alumni on Instagram, Misericordia University Alumni on Facebook. Twitter is Misericordia Alum. So unfortunately, because of Twitter characters, you can't really put the hashtag in.
Right.
And then, just finding us on wherever website, misericordia.edu/alumni, you'll be able to find a lot of our opportunities there.
Amazing. I think from a digital engagement perspective, I think you're just doing some of the coolest things I've heard running this podcast and actually talking to a lot of other alumni marketing teams. So it's really impressive. Thanks so much for sharing all that insight and, getting down to the tactics on exactly what you're doing.
And thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. And for our listeners, thanks for joining us. Tune in for the next one. And if you need a virtual tour, campus map, or a Localist event calendar, please, you know where to reach me. Great. Thank you so much.